Back again with a new video. Not much new items that you guys have not seen, but a lot of stuff in like a new light, which I'll talk about here in a little bit after we go through the new stuff, which is one trade, my first trade ever done, and one large photograph, I think. So the trade was for a 1960s Eusebio that I had gotten in from that Portugal lot. I traded it for Manuel Bento. Yeah, his rookie. Chalana. Chalena? I don't know. Man, I'm horrible at names. But yeah, so this is one of his rookies. Once you get into the 1970s for Portugal, you start having players who have multiple rookies because multiple sets were being released every year. But yeah, so those are two rookies of two notable Portuguese players. Here's 1927 card of Victor Silva. This is his earliest. And then the rookie of Futre. So that's my first trade ever. Feel pretty good about it. I probably, the card I traded was probably worth more than these four. You know, if you go between the auction that these four would do compared to the Eusebio. But sometimes, you know, you just I don't know. I like the trade. I feel good about the trade. I know how much I spent for the Eusebio. So in my head, I spent that to get these four cards, which is pretty great. I think I spent 40 euros on that Eusebio. So yeah. The last new item, which for an explanation on the new stuff, international shipments are just slow. Everything that I've purchased is either being shipped to the German mailbox, which I am putting together, and it'll be shipped to me in a little bit, or they're being shipped, turned around in customs because of faulty paperwork, and then returned to the buyer, and then the buyer has to correct the paperwork, and then they'll ship it out again. And that's the case for at least four of them. So there are plenty of items I'm waiting for. But here's the large photograph, and it's yeah. So the photograph is against this big white piece of paper, and it's laminated. But yeah, 1956 Copa. I wasn't thinking it was going to be this big, but it is. I thought it was going to be a lot smaller. But I don't know. This is nice. It'll be a nice potential contender for a frame. At some point I need to show off all my Copa items. I still don't have a specific Copa rookie card. There's four that are tossed around. You know, they're all sometime in between 52 and 55 or 54. Of course, there's one that I just like the most. It's from the same set, the Gene Vincent that I showed off a while back. It's that same set. I think that's the one I like the most. Yeah, I think that's the one I like the most. The next thing I want to show off is I was searching up more players to add to my list, and I found a new one, and it was one that I don't know why I never came across his name, because he's the all-time leading goal scorer for Ajax in Netherlands, and he's the all-time leading goal scorer by a lot, and he helped the club win like 5 championships in the 1930s. And the only reason he doesn't have an international history, it's because he had a falling out with the coach due to arguments on how certain plays and certain like how the team needs to be run. And so he was invited for 2 games, and he wasn't invited back because of the arguments. But it's Von Reenen, and I just so happen to have 2 of his earliest issues. So I had to check his. He started in 1926, and so he doesn't appear in the Mausoleum set. Mausoleum, the Anglo-American 1924-26 set. He doesn't appear in that. Or at least a card of his has not appeared, but I'm 99% sure that he doesn't appear in the set, and he will never appear in the set. And then I checked the 1928 sets. There are 2, and he doesn't appear in either one of those. And so, yeah, he appears in the 1931 Egyptian Victoria Miss Blanche set, which I have, but it's in the album, and I'm actually about to purchase a complete set of those here sometime. It's being held for me, and the reason I'm purchasing that is because I don't want to tear my complete album apart. When possible, I want to keep the albums intact with all the cards in it. So when I have the opportunity to purchase a complete set that's unstuck, I tend to go for it. So yeah, and then his more desirable issues is 1932 Yatama, or Turwi, yeah, Turwi. And so these are his 2 issues, and man, I love this set. I was showing it off off Facebook last week. So yeah, so those are 2 that I've probably showed off in the past, just never talked about the player. That's why I like buying sets, just because they might contain players that I wasn't researching at the time. So yeah, so I was happy to pull those 2 out. Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about, which is actually a good bit, is I've started to take apart a lot of my albums. I've started to unstick the pieces from the albums, and I'm trying to do it where I don't damage the albums. I don't have to take the pages apart to soak the pages or whatever, and it's going pretty well. I've managed to only damage 2 albums, both 1980s Colombian albums, only because those stickers can't be unstuck. You have to cut them out, and I have those right here. So the first one, Andres Escobar, it's from the 88 album, and then from the 86 album, Rene Higuita. Probably murdered his name. But yeah, so those are cut out. Yeah, I've been told that finding unstuck cards of theirs are super hard, and I don't particularly want to go through the effort in trying to track those down. Unstuck cards of theirs. So those are fine. They will be put in colored sleeves that don't show the back of the card. I'll put them in a card protector, and then that's how they'll stay. Mark their names off the list. Because when I get an album, I don't mark the names off the list until I take the card out of the album. And so now I have a whole bunch of athletes to take off, because these are not all just football cards. And so yeah, so working from the later years to the earlier years, so the 80s Colombian album, and then next was the 1978 Mexico album. And I only took 1 card out of that. I will probably, because I have two nearly complete albums of those. Just missing the Hugo Sanchez rookie, which is the one I took out. I've had 3 albums so far. I sold 1 album and the Hugo Sanchez with the album. And then I sold the another Hugo Sanchez that I took out of the album. And then this one I'm keeping, because this is from my personal collection. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice. So that 78. And the next would be what, 64, the 64 album. So the Bobby Bubblegum Tokyo Olympic 64 album. And of that, I took out 4 cards. The Hungary team, that won gold, I think. Joseph Frazier's rookie. I think that's the only football card in the album. Joseph Frazier's rookie. Bob Hayes rookie. I love the fact that the flags are pasted around, and then Abebe Bikila, his rookie, or one of his earlier cards. I think I have every card of his in the 60s. Which one of those is the rookie? That might not be the rookie. I might have something earlier, but I know I have that. That was the last one I needed for his run. So 64. The next 2 I did were from the 1950s, German players. Yeah. So what I no, I messed that up. Oh, I messed that up. Technically, it's not finished. It's not finished. I have a lot more to do to this album, but I'm being extremely careful because it's one of my prized possessions. But it's the 1966 Campeonato Chile World Cup album. And so these are the majority. I didn't realize how many Chilean players were in the album, but these are all Chilean players. I have not gotten to the international players yet. And the main reason I was after this album was because these are in-country rookies of these 2 greats, Francisco Valdez and arguably one of the greatest Chilean players ever to play the game, Elias Figueroa. So this is his most desirable rookie. It came out pretty great. You know, these are tough. The backs are tough. I have my album is complete except for the Pele. I sold the Pele. I didn't care for it. I was happy to get rid of it. It helped pay for the album. Plus it got me, I think, 2 more albums. So I was happy to do it. I might part ways with some more of the international players, but no rookies. The rookies are mine. The rookies are keeping. The Levyashin, I know I'm keeping that one just because he's one of my favorite players to collect. And yeah, man, I really butchered this. I totally forgot. Who cares? Who cares about the order? I butchered it. I forgot to show this. Wellington Ortiz, I removed him. I removed him out of his binder, his album, which I have 2 of. I have 2 of the 1980 albums. One did not come with the Wellington Ortiz, so I sought another one out that did not have the Valderrama because that's where all the value is. So I bought that album solely for this Wellington Ortiz rookie, and it'll be paired with my Valderrama, which is right over here, which I love. But yeah, I love that. All right, so 88, 86, 80, 78, 66, 64, and then you get to the 50s, which is just 2 albums from 1950. So you have the Samuel album, Oberliga Sud. So for the, South? Yeah, something like that. These are the earliest cards of a lot of the players from the 1954 World Cup, the German winning team. Max Morlock, which I know he has a 49 card. Some of these players probably have a 49 card. I just haven't bought the German 49 album. I really need to sit down and do that. Really, the Helmut Rahn, his card was the only reason I was looking into the 1950 albums. And then one Polish player, but Herbert Harwood, Carl May, Alfred Pfaff, Hans Bauer, Richard Herman, and then Wilimowski, Ernest Wilimowski. So he started in the 30s. He doesn't have a single, he might have started like in the 20s, I can't really remember, but he doesn't have a single pre-World War II issue. He has 2 1950 cards and 2 different 1950 albums. This is one of them. pretty nice. You don't really see this one. You see the other one pop up. Sometime I know that there's a solution to remove the paper from the album due to the glue, because this was a much tougher glue than all the other albums. But you know, sometime I'll remove it. But it looks pretty good. There's a solution in getting all that off. In my opinion, from what I've seen of these backs, they're okay. You know, they're not great, but they're not the worst. And apart from all the taking apart of the album, like unsticking the stickers, these are by far the worst ones. It's just because of the glue. You know, it just wasn't going to work out. So those were the worst. The Edelstahl's 1950 West Liga album. So here's the Helmut Ron rookie. Here's the back. Pretty good. You have Paul Janes, which not his rookies, 1930. You have Anton Turwick. Somebody Hines. These are all Bernard Clout and Hans Scheffler, which, yeah. So some of these are rookies, some of these are probably not their rookies, but I took out all the 1954 World Cup winners. So 1950, and then next is what, 39, which is one of my proudest removals, because you know, for whatever reason, the glue to these were pasted on the entirety of the card. Seemed super tough, and I had to resort to using boiling water 10 seconds. Once I could feel the sticker resisting, I would put it back in for another 10 seconds. I'd take it out, and I did that until it came off the page. And since I actually have two albums, the 1939 Tic Tac, but one's complete and empty, you know, intact and empty, and the other one, it used to be complete, but I tore that apart in order to remove these stickers since I had another album already. So these are all teams. All the individual players came out fine. I don't know anything about any of these players. I've been told the only notable guy, the worth in the album is the Abe Lindster rookie. It's the whole reason I bought the album. I got both for 70 euros. Super happy with this. And then boom, the back. It is not perfect. It is not perfect. There is staining from the glue right here and right there. But it looks so much better in person. And this is about as good as it gets with this card. This is the best one I've seen, and there's only four graded by SGC. None by PSA, none by CGC, none that show up on the registry. The pop report. But I think it's like 2 PSA 1s or 2 PSA 1.5s, one I know there's a PSA 1, a 1.5, and a 2. The 2 is the highest. In my head, because there's no paper loss, this is higher than a 2. The corners are sharp. I don't know. It probably might hit a 2. But this is a gorgeous card. It will stay in the collection unless I cave and sell it. Because I am... who knows? Who knows? I really like the hunt. Since I just forget about the order, so because I wanted to leave off this next album. So this is 1935-36 Nestle album for sports and actors. So I removed the sports players. These are all French players, or players a part of the French League, but you have, these are super cheap, super, you know, people aren't really after them. But you have players like Roger Courtois, Lucien Laurent, Edmond Delfour. But yeah, so not that exciting. Not exciting at all. I just removed them because I knew they'd be easy. But the main reason why I started removing the albums was that I really wanted to display some from my 1943 Mexican album because I love that album so much. And I was able to take out every card from the album. I didn't have a complete set. I was missing some cards from some pages, but I had every player I would want from the set except for one who actually shows up in an earlier set in Spain. So I'm okay. But Horatio Cesarian, the main one. Jose Luis Barbola, Octavio Vial, Isidro Langara, yeah, something like that. Carlos Lavieda, and then Carlos Septién. And then there's a bunch of other players that I'll probably take out and put in my Excel sheet. But here are all the, yeah, so I'll clean that up a little bit. So yeah, so that is it. That's all I have to talk about. Hopefully I'll make another video late next week because I should have a bombardment of packages coming in. So we'll see. All right, peace.